Well, it's been about 2 weeks since the team and I raced Vegas to Reno, and I wanted to do a race recap. I know a lot of people were following along, and a lot of people were asking questions of, what we were doing, why we were doing it. Anyway, so this is the recap on our 2024 Vegas to Reno. First off, Vegas to Reno is the longest point to point off road race in North America. This year it was 555 miles. You start on the outskirts of Vegas and you basically take BLM land all the way to Reno. And there was, I don't know, 17 or 8 or maybe 13 or 14 pit stops that you can stop in to fix your car. So point to point race. This is my first point to point race. I'm used to like King of the Hammers. We take the RV, we take the enclosed trailer. You bring all your stuff, you set up on the lake bed, and that's kind of like your centralized location. You race and you come back to camp. Well, this race, there is none of that. You pretty much have to have everything you got, but it's all got to be mobile. So, that being said, I had to put together a pretty good team of people and vehicles to do this race. So, first person I reached out to was Will Harris. He's part of the reason I got into these Class 11s. He bought one, but he's got a chase truck and he's pretty good at driving these. So asked him to drive the second leg. I was going to start. Jaron Brown's going to be my co-driver. Steve Smith was going to be Will's co-driver. Steve does all the work on Will's cars, built them, so he's really good at working on VWs. And then third was Jody Ford and Corey Day. Jody and Corey raced this race a few years ago with Team Black and Blue Racing in a 4400 car, so they had a little bit of experience about the race. And me and Will, I got to calculating it up. We were going to drive like 10 hours apiece. If our car basically was almost perfect, we were going to be in the car for 10 hours apiece, and that's just too long to be really in any car, especially a Class 11. So I had the drivers. I had one chase truck, but I needed another chase truck to obviously help alternate doing pit stops. So reached out to Sam Bratton. He's in Chattanooga, Tennessee. He actually did Vegas to Reno the same time Jody and them did, and he's got a chase truck. So called him up, said, "Hey man, do you mind driving your truck out to Vegas, helping us out?" He was all about it. We loaded everything up, and actually we towed an entire car out to Vegas with us, another VW. I was going to take the car apart, take some parts off of it, but I figured I did that, I would need something that we didn't bring. But then also, pretty much as soon as we got home from Vegas to Reno, we were going to race Crandon. So I was going to have to put the car back together. I thought we'll just tow the whole car out there. So we put my car on top of Will's truck, put the parts car on the trailer, and then we met Sam in Memphis and we drove to Vegas. Made it through Tech. The race started Friday morning, but for us, there was like 260 people in the race, but for us, we were starting, I think like, there was only 5 people starting behind us, so 255th where we were taking off. So we didn't have to be there quite that early. We get out to the staging area. It's a little bit outside of Vegas. We get out there, there's a lot of people, getting ready for the race. We get all our stuff ready to go. We take a team photo right at the start, kind of where I take off at, and right when we took that team photo is like the bad luck started. I went through the little checkpoint where they check your transponders, and I had to drive down the road maybe a half mile or a mile to get on the staging road. Even though the start line was behind us, you had to go way down the road. They got 200 people racing the race. They were lining people up. Well, I turned onto this dirt road, and pretty soon that dirt road turned to nothing but sand. And I didn't have my helmet on yet. I was expecting to get to the start line, kind of do my little pre-race stuff. And anyways, I got on that road, turned to sand, I get stuck. Well, a couple people were passing me. Obviously, they were going to the start line too. But I get out, a truck comes down the road. I kind of flag him down. He's only 2-wheel drive. He pulls in there. He gets stuck. So now I get on the cell phone. I'm like, "Hey, Will, I'm stuck. Bad." I tried to power out of it, got stuck even more. Well, Will's like, "Man, I got a trailer. I'm going to have to drop the trailer, do this, do that." I was like, "Well, we got to hurry up." I only had like 10 minutes to get to the start line now. So we have to call Sam, who was already headed to pit 1. Well, Sam turns around, comes back there, hooks to me, and I'm just like, man, just pull me through this and take me to the start line. Well, he about gets stuck. He's in full drive. He about gets stuck. Gets in front of me, and man, it is full throttle. I'm on the gas. He's on the gas, and it was like a mile-long sand pit. It was terrible. Anyways, the chase truck's overheating. I can smell it, and it blows the radiator hose off. So, smoke, steam everywhere out of the chase truck. Thank goodness I'm able to get around them. I make it to the start line, and thank you to Best in the Desert. They literally waited on us to start the race. By this time, it's like I didn't start the race till 1:05, so I was already about 20 minutes late. They waited on us, but man, I am frazzled. I'm pissed off. Now the chase truck broke down, and I take off, and I am running 110% because I do not want to get stuck. There's nobody around us. So the last car to take off, the chase trucks broke down, so I am bonsaiing. Anything that looked soft, I'm downshifting. I am going through it basically 7,000 RPMs. I did that for probably about the first 5 miles till I calmed down a little bit. But about the time I felt like I was getting in the groove, we blew a tire out. So no big deal. I got stuff to change the tire. Me and J-Ron, we jump out. We're going to change the tire. I had a breaker bar with a 13/16 socket on it, but I didn't have a 13/16 socket for the impact, which was 3/8. So first tire change took a little bit longer than we wanted to. We got it done, no big deal. Hop back in the car, finally get to pit 1, and even when we get to pit 1, they're telling us, hey, the pits are closing soon. You guys, you need to kind of hurry up. I've been to Baja where pretty much when you take off, you've got 50 hours to finish, and the pits, there's nobody monitored in the pits really. Well, this race being in obviously North America, and Best in the Desert has volunteer staff manning these pits, very organized, and the people are very professional. But they were kind of telling us, hey, you got to pick it up a little bit. So I get it full of gas, I get a spare tire, we take back off, everything's pretty good, and actually our average mile per hour was right on track where we needed to be to finish on time. So I didn't feel too bad about it, even with all the crazy mess ups to blow the tire out. Anyways, take off again, another blow tire. Well, real quick on the tire situation, I ran tubes in the tires because I heard of some people doing that, and I thought it'd be just an extra protection of keeping the beads on. You don't run bead locks on these little Class 11s, but I had aluminum wheels with tubes, and actually just talked to some people at Crandon this weekend, and they were like, yeah, the aluminum ones are bad about pinching the tubes. So I'm pretty sure most of our tire problems were them tubes popping, getting pinched. But anyways, second tire change, I had the right socket, impact. I felt like I changed the tire in like 1 minute. The spare tire goes under the hood of this car, and all my electronics are pretty much exposed. And I told everybody, hey, if you're changing a spare, be careful throwing the tire up in there. Don't hit anything. Well, J-Ron throws the tire up in there, and as soon as he does that, the car cuts off. And I'm like, I'm mad. I'm cussing at him, thinking he hit something, caused the car to cut off. I get in the car. I hear the fuel pump running, the ignition, all the lights are working. So now I'm realizing we got an issue. But we were on a little bit of a hill where we changed the tire. So I was thinking the pickup, we had a full tank of gas pretty much. I used the starter to back the car down off the hill, and it cranked up and ran. So I left it running, strapped the spare tire down. About the time we get everything put up, the car cuts off again. So now I am like, man, I get on the radio, tell them, hey guys, I got an issue, mile, whatever. Well, that obviously messes them guys up a little bit on getting to the pits and everything. I think Will turns around. He's coming to maybe see what he can do to help us. I had a spare fuel pump on the car, but I could hear the pump running. Well, J-Ron was like, man, you ought to change the pump. So took the time. Didn't take that long. I don't know how long it took fuel pump. But anyway, as soon as I put the new fuel pump on, started shooting fuel up the fuel hose, hooked it up to the carburetor, car fires up. So now we're back going. Get on the radio, tell everybody we're back going. Well, those guys are trying to get back in position for the pits. So, I don't know, we're 30 or 40 miles into this race, and everything is pure chaos. The chase truck, they're having to fix it to get the radiator hose, get water in it. Pretty much all the drinking water we had, they're putting it in the chase truck. Well, I get to the next pit, and they don't have a tire because Will had turned around. So anyways, all we got was gas. We didn't get the spare tire that was flat under the hood changed out. So I just had to keep going. Well, there again, I blow a tire out. So now I don't have a spare. So that's this rim, as you can see. I drove on a flat tire for probably more than 10 miles, beating the crap out of the skid plate. These cars, Class 11 actually rides pretty good, but when you're bottoming out, man, it just doesn't feel good. So it was taking a toll. It was really like 110 degrees in the middle of the day in the desert. I will say I was getting frustrated. Already in the beginning of the race got dusted out. I make it to the pit. They get all the tires changed. We get a new tire under there. Drive a little bit longer. I was going to go to like mile 200 or something. I got to about 168 and told Will, I said, all right, Will, jump in the car. But at that pit stop, that's when the first shock broke off the car. So we got the flats fixed. We got the shock bolt fixed. One of the best in the desert people actually had like a 6.5 inch bolt. And we got it fixed. So give the car to Will, and man, Will he takes off and he is really knocking out the miles. I mean, he's flying. Every time you look at the tractor, he's running 50 plus mile an hour. So I'm like, man, that's exactly what we needed to catch up on time, because these pits are closing and we're pretty much the last car. I know, shout out to Albert Contreras, because him and his team, they were having some issues. We actually were battling out with Albert, which is kind of a whole nother funny story, because we race Ultra 4 with them. We've had some run-ins together. Super awesome dude, great team. So we're right there with Albert and them. Anyways, Will is clicking off the miles. Everything's going good. We get to a pit, and I think we've changed a couple spares at this point, or a couple tires again. Will comes in, car skipping. Well, as he comes in, he's fussing about the car skipping. They're also, Best in the Desert's like, man, the pit just closed 5 minutes ago. I'm going to give you 10 more minutes. And I'm like, I'm stressing on what we're going to do. So first time the car skipping, I put all new spark plugs in it, which, the motor is screaming hot. It's kind of hard to do. I get new spark plugs in the car. Will takes off. Didn't fix it. Thank goodness the section Will's in is, I guess, flat. I don't know. He was still running 30, 40 mile an hour, pretty much on 2 cylinders. Next pit stop, he's like, we do have good radio communications. I took the distributor, all the plug wires off of our parts car, get in the pits, put them on the car. Same thing, still skipping. This time, I don't know what pit or mileage. Now that it's getting dark, we've all been up, all day. He comes to the pits. We take the valve covers off the engine, and a couple of the rocker arms had come off the push rod. So we knew we had a valve train issue. The pit guys were telling us, man, you guys, the pit's closed. We're going to give you a little bit of time, this and that. Well, this was going to be a kind of a lengthy stop, because we had to get the car right. I mean, we kept patching it, but the car wasn't running 100%. I knew if we get the car fixed 100%, we could go fast enough to get back on track. Best in the Desert said, hey, look, we can't give you any more time. You guys are going to have to jump a pit. So we actually had to put the car on the trailer, jump ahead one pit, which, I don't know, got us back. Basically gave us about 30 minutes to get new rocker arms, set the valve lash on the car, and then keep going. So we're taking stuff off the other car, put stuff on this car. I mean, they're rushing us again. They're like, hey, you guys have got to get moving. You're going to get a DNF. And they've already let us jump pit, pretty much knowing that, we're the only Class 11 out there. We're kind of racing by ourselves. We're just having a really good time. We're supposed to be having a good time. It's getting pretty stressful at this point. Anyways, we get all the rocker arm stuff. We're rushing, fire the engine up. It's running good. The fan belt we noticed was loose, but we were going to add some oil to the car. So we're like, oh, we'll tighten the fan belt up. And we add oil to the car, blah, blah. Well, you got somebody basically standing over you saying, hey, if you guys don't take off right now, we're going to have to disqualify you. So we take off. We didn't put no oil in the car, and we didn't tighten the fan belt. Well, they didn't make it not even 5 miles, and the fan belt come off, which isn't really a big deal because I had one zip tied on the car. But being that we're pretty new to Class 11 VWs, I got the wrong belt. I got the belt for a regular pulley, and I run what they call a power pulley on this. So I had to get the right belt off the parts car, get it back to them in the pits. They were turning around. They actually got stuck. I carried the belt actually out onto the race course, gave them the belt, finally got them unstuck, put the belt in the car, and they take off. And Will is finally clicking off laps again, and he's going pretty good. Breaks the other shock off the car, but really doesn't affect the car other than it just sounds like the whole back of the car is coming apart. So the shock's beating around back there. Will drove that thing from mile 168 to pretty much like mile 400 and something. We had a lot of issues. We did have a fuel pump go bad during that. Let's put another fuel pump on the car. I don't remember the time. Anyways, Jody Ford gets in the car, and he's got the hardest section, which is basically the last 90 miles. I mean, they say it gets really tough. So when Jody got in the car, the motor was making some racket, some valve issues, and it wasn't running 100%. But anyways, Jody got in the car. I really didn't think, I was like, man, I don't know how far we're going to make it. So Jody gets in the car. I can't remember if he blew out any tires. I mean, it's kind of, at this point, we'd been up for about 24 hours. And I know right when the sun came up, we put another fuel pump on the car, got Jody going, and basically said, man, just try to get to the finish. There were some huge hill climbs. The car wasn't running right. Thank goodness it was getting pretty much late in the race. The start line closed at like 8 o'clock. Well, it was about 8 o'clock, so there were some UTVs on course that actually helped Jody. They pulled him up some of the hills. It's the only way we were able to get up them. I mean, like I said, there's nobody else on course. And another funny thing is, a lot of my buddies back home are waking up, and they're like, man, they're texting me. They see us still moving on the tracker. They're like, man, what are y'all doing? So people are following us, but we were only like 10 miles from the finish, and Pam Hall and Rosie from Maxis, they were actually eating breakfast or about to eat breakfast, realized that we were getting close to the finish line. They take off, come back to the start-finish line. The whole team's at the start-finish line. We're waiting on Jody. He's only 10 miles out. Well, I didn't realize, like, the last 10 miles of that race is just, I guess, like, crazy hard. And the guy at the finish line, I can't remember his name, he was the best in the desert veteran, was like, oh, yeah, people have, lost this race in the last 4 miles. Well, man, it was really hard. And Jody came across the radio. I think another RZR helped him up some hills. He comes over the radio 2 miles from the finish line. It's like, the motor is locked down. We're like, gosh, even the best in the desert people now are like, man, if you can get here, get across the finish line, it's going to be cool. So they let Will take his truck. He's 2 miles from the finish line. He drives the truck, pulls the VW in. We unhook it and push it across the stage. And actually, Pam did an interview. Some of y'all might have seen that. That was really cool. Thanks to Pam and Rosie for basically canceling breakfast, coming out there. But, yeah, I mean, it took us, 28, 30 hours to finish that race. It was really awesome. Plan on going back next year. I want to finish it in this Class 11. I mean, it's just, it's a challenge. So, if you got a Class 11 out there, everything is doable. That's the other thing. We never got stuck on course. I was worried about getting stuck. I told a guy at Best in the Desert, the hardest part of the race was the staging line. So if that hadn't happened, that'd have been great. It would have given us another 20 or 30 minutes and just not been so flustered. But we learned a ton. I cannot thank the guys enough for helping. I mean, everybody stayed up. We got up Friday morning. We didn't go to bed at all. I mean, that's the thing. We got to Reno. Big shout out to Matt Wilson and his crew. He actually rented a house in Vegas, let us park the car there. But he also had plenty of hotel rooms in Reno. We went up there, took showers, pretty much got right back on the road. I was wanting to be home Monday morning so I can get back to work. We didn't make it home Monday morning. We had to stop and sleep one night. But just a crazy adventure, taking all your friends from South Carolina, driving to Vegas, off-roading, chasing all the way to Reno, put everything on the trailer, and then drive home. Just crazy. But anyways, we're going to do it again. My car is beat. I actually had to, I didn't go to Crandon this weekend because just so much, everything I owned was pretty much destroyed, I felt like. Took time to clean the shop, get the car cleaned up. I actually just got the motor out. Going to see what let go in the engine. And we're going to get this thing ready for King of the Hammers. So, anyways, thanks for following along. If you, like us on Facebook, Instagram, and we're always doing some crazy adventures. Anyways, thanks, and that's our Vegas Reno recap.